welcome to my page as Littles Grow. Here we talk all about your highly sensitive child. What does that mean? How does that impact your life? And how do I parent this very special kid? All right, so if you have a highly sensitive child, you're in the right place. Today, we are going to talk about sensory processing disorder versus sensory processing sensitivity, or highly sensitive children. So today we're going to talk about what is sensory processing disorder, what is sensory processing sensitivity, how are they similar and how are they different, and why are they confused with each other. Sensory processing sensitivity, also commonly known as high sensitivity, is an inborn temperament. It's a biological trait that stems from a hypersensitive nervous system. Sensory processing disorder, the names are similar, but two different things, is neurological disorder, where sensory signals are received by the central nervous system, but they're misinterpreted, which results in an inappropriate response for the situation or scenario. So sensory processing disorder originates in the brain and involves that neurological difficulty with detecting and then organizing the sensory signals received. This is different from high sensitivity or sensory processing sensitivity, because in high sensitivity or SPS, we are processing the sensory stimuli at a deeper level. So your nervous system is hypersensitive to the stimuli, but it's processing it more thoroughly. So in high sensitivity, we're processing information more thoroughly and more information. I'll get to that in a minute. Where sensory processing disorder, they're unable to accurately process the sensory information. The overstimulation seen in individuals with sensory processing disorder is sometimes confused with the overstimulation seen in individuals who are highly sensitive or sensory processing sensitivity. But the important thing to note is that the root cause of this overstimulation is not the same. Okay, so let's look into that a little bit further. So the following information is from Dr. Elaine Aron. She gives us an acronym to better understand what it is underlying highly sensitive people or highly sensitive children. This acronym is DOES, D-O-E-S. It refers to depth of processing, overstimulation, emotional intensity, and sensory sensitivity. Okay, so let's understand those a little bit better. So first, depth of processing. Some questions that we might ask about a highly sensitive child. Does the child seem to really process things deeply? Do they pause before they start something, preferring to have more time to analyze, to assess a situation before starting? Do they ask big questions and use words beyond their years, right? They use big vocabulary. They ask questions about how the world works. Do they have really good intuitive ideas? Are they super intuitive about their surroundings, the people that they're with? Okay, so second, overstimulation. This is where it gets a little bit confusing with sensory processing disorder. But when it comes to highly sensitive children, what we're really looking at is a couple things for overstimulation. First and foremost, do you notice a pattern where your child is able to process information or stimuli input more effectively, or I guess you could, in layman's terms, in a better way? Is it easier for them to process stimuli in a calm, gentle environment? Is it easier for them to process stimuli when they've had more downtime and more sleep? So in these situations, so you're setting, let's think of a picture perfect scenario. It's quiet, they have gotten great sleep, they're not hungry, all of their basic needs are met. Are they still having a challenging time processing sensory stimulation? In sensory processing disorder, this type of environment isn't going to make as much of a difference. The level of emotional reactivity may look different in different environments, of course, for different kids. But even in like a calm, gentle environment with all needs met, highly sensitive children will often, if you were to compare like apples to apples, a highly sensitive child is going to be able to have an easier time effectively processing the stimuli. Okay, the E in DOES stands for emotional responsiveness and empathy as well. So that is another component with highly sensitive people, is we often notice that they're more intuitive to the people around them and more empathetic. So not only do they feel things deeply in terms of the overstimulation from sensory input, but they also feel things deeply in terms of how they feel about other people and feeling like they can really even put themselves in their place. Empathy. The S in the DOES acronym stands for sensitivities to subtleties. Okay, so this is where children just notice the smallest things. They notice the changes in the environment. Maybe you moved a frame from one shelf to another. Your child might actually notice that. They notice sounds. They hear maybe the clock ticking, and one day the batteries die. They might notice that that clock ticking is not happening anymore. They notice maybe some changes in food. You might have made my oatmeal a little bit hotter today than you normally make it. Okay, so we know a little bit better about what sensory processing disorder is, what sensory processing sensitivity is. But let's talk about a little bit of why they always get confused, or how are they so similar? How are they similar? How do they cross over? They both involve sensitivity to sensory stimulation. They involve how these children engage with others, and they also involve how they emotionally respond to situations. This is where they cross over. This is how they're similar, and why sometimes they get confused with each other, particularly in that overstimulation component. What happens when they're overstimulated for both of them? We covered how they're different really based on the definitions of each. What's actually happening at the root cause of overstimulation. That's really how they're different. But I also want to point out that sensory processing disorders happens in 1 out of every 20 children. Sensory processing sensitivity, high sensitivity, happens in 1 out of every 5 children. Okay, so there's a big difference in the percentage of kiddos that are experiencing each. Sensory processing sensitivity is a lot more common than sensory processing disorders. All right, so can I summarize that into one simple, easy sentence? Probably not, but bottom line, highly sensitive children are processing information accurately. Their brains are taking in information, often more information than their peers, and they're processing it accurately at a deeper and more thorough level. There is no neurological misfunction or misfiring. A child with sensory processing disorder is getting the information and they are having neurological misfiring. They are unable to process the information because of misfunction. You might be wondering then, how do I know if my child has sensory processing disorder, or are they highly sensitive? All right, well, first and foremost, this video does not serve to diagnose. Every child is so individualized that there is no way I could give any kind of diagnosing information just in this video alone. Okay, so you need to talk to your pediatrician. First step. You may even bring the information to your pediatrician. I'm considering ruling out sensory processing disorder versus high sensitivity. Then you're going to ask the pediatrician, or more like tell the pediatrician, I want my child seen by an occupational therapist and a psychologist. All right, so you go and see these professionals. Now what? A child with sensory processing disorders is going to benefit from treatment with an occupational therapist. They're going to work on sensory integration. Now, sensory integration can help highly sensitive children too. But really, what it comes down to, what's really going to help, is being aware of and managing boundaries for highly sensitive children. It's about you helping your child to learn more about themselves, understanding and listening to their body's limits, and also understanding the ways that high sensitivity works for them rather than against them, and responding to those needs. Okay, that is the nutshell. I feel like I could go on 10,000 different tangents just from this topic alone. I'm going to stop there for today. I hope this was helpful in understanding a little bit more about your child and the differences between high sensitivity versus sensory processing disorder. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.